Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 authors that I'm debating if I should give them a second chance. So for me personally, if I read a book by an author and I do not connect with that book, I am very unlikely to pick up any more work by that particular author. However, sometimes authors can just have a one-off book or a specific book that just didn't speak to me. That doesn't mean that I won't like any other of their books. So I need y'all's help to help me decide if I should give any of these authors a second chance. But before we go ahead and get on into the list, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways from me. So I'm going to be telling you guys the author and the book that I read of theirs that just didn't connect with me, and some reasons that I really didn't like it so much, and maybe you guys can change my mind. The first one is probably the most, I guess, controversial, and that is Frederick Backman, and I read Anxious People by him, and Frederick Backman is like such a celebrated, famous author, and he's written so many books that are like on people's favorite book lists of all time. And I think Anxious People was his most recent publication, or at least at the time I read it, it was. But it is about this character, and we don't really know who the character is, who robs a bank and then basically takes these other characters hostage. But there's really no like malice in the taking hostage of these people. There's really no malice in the bank robbery. Like, it has to just do with completely existential circumstances. And Frederick Backman is a very like humorous writer, and I will say that the humor of this book was spot on. I actually did laugh out loud a couple times, but like I just didn't connect to any of the characters' stories, what they were going through, the whole idea of all of these characters like stuck in this room, like telling each other their life stories, and like I don't know, it just wasn't for me. And then there was supposedly like a twist at the end, but I got angry because the translation used the wrong pronoun way earlier in the beginning of the book that made me think the whole time that the bank robber was someone else. And I even like was on Discord when I was reading this. I'm like, did anyone catch this? And I like took a picture of the page and like circled it. I'm like, they used this pronoun. So the whole time I'm thinking one thing, and then when the reveal happened, it revealed who it was. And I'm like, but it doesn't match. So definitely like an editing / translation error, but like the whole experience just, I don't know, put a bad taste in my mouth. And I have no desire to like pick up any more of his work. But yeah, let me know if there is any of his books that I should pick up that you think maybe would fit my reading style or my taste, if you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time. And if you do recommend reading him again, what books should I start with? But yeah, Anxious People just did not connect with me. The next one is Kevin Hearn. I read A Plague of Giants earlier this year and am so lukewarm about this book, about this series. I gave it 3 stars. It is the 7 Kenning series. He has 3 or 4 books published in this series now. And the reason I was so lukewarm is that this book had like a plethora of characters, like a huge cast. And like none of them I connected with. Not one character did I actually feel emotionally attached to. I found that the world was kind of cool, but I found the writing style very amateurish, and I also found like he was trying to portray a certain era in time, and like the language of the characters just came off as like childish and just not fitting in with like the era that he was trying to convey. So there was just a lot of like inconsistencies in my opinion. So let me know if this series gets better as it goes on, if the characters are developed more, if his writing gets better, because as of right now, I don't plan on continuing this series. And then we have Daphne Du Maurier. I read Rebecca, I think last year, and I have been wanting to read Rebecca for the longest time because I've heard that this book or this author is like a good mystery author, a good gothic romance author. She really knows how to create tension, suspense, atmosphere, and that Rebecca was just such a good book. And I went into it with like super high expectations, and I was so disappointed. And the main reason is that the main character was horrible. Like, she is probably the dumbest, most boring main character that I have ever read of any book in my entire life. I can officially say that. And yes, the atmosphere was good. The mystery was interesting, but I couldn't stand to read 300 something pages from this like vapid airhead character that just offered nothing to me as a reader. And also, this is like got thriller elements to it. And the thriller elements, while they might have been shocking at the time this was written, like in today's world, just isn't shocking. So I just was very disappointed. And it did have an open ended ending. And I feel like that was like the most interesting part of this entire book. And there was like a small twist at the end that I wasn't expecting, that she did a really good job with, other than the ending. The main character just sucked in my opinion, and that combined with like such a weak story just didn't make up for like the good parts of the book. And I've been wanting to read My Cousin Rachel because that storyline sounds interesting, but I just have no desire to pick it up now because I just did not like Rebecca that much. So you guys will have to let me know if My Cousin Rachel is worth reading, or if I didn't like Rebecca, then I probably won't like any more of her stuff. And yeah, just help me decide. The next author is Josh Malerman. I read Bird Box by him, and I picked this up, I think during Halloween last year or the year before, because I wanted to read like a horror. I was trying to dabble my feet in the horror genre, and I know that Netflix had made like an adaptation of this book. I'd heard of it, and I like had these expectations going in that this would be like a creepy horror, edge of my seat type book, and it just wasn't. I think this was Josh Malerman's first book, or first published book, and in my personal opinion, his prose is very weak. I did not like the story overall. It followed a character, or followed a world that had been essentially invaded by these beings, and if you looked at them, you essentially went crazy. So our main character has to stay blindfolded the whole time. But I just felt like the character development was super weak. The story was super weak, especially like the twist. Like in the middle, our main character is living with like all of these other people. They're sheltered in a house, just trying to survive, and like the character dynamics just weren't believable. And there were like these things that these characters did, just despicable things that just like, it was almost like he was trying too hard to make the story shocking or disturbing, and it just wasn't. And nothing about this book spoke to me or stood out to me and really convinced me to read any more of his books. So I don't know. You guys will have to tell me if you've read any more of Josh Malerman's work and if he's improved as a writer. And he's been doing this for a while now. So yeah, let me know if he's worth reading anymore. And the last one is Silvia Moreno Garcia. She is the author of Mexican Gothic. So I read this book, I think like right after or about the same time as I did Bird Box, because I was trying to, like I said, read more horror. But this book follows a girl who's like very up to do, and her cousin married this man and was kind of like taken away to this manor in this more secluded part of Mexico. And she sends a letter to her cousin and her cousin's family, and the letter just seems off. And the cousin decides to go there and visit, and she finds that her cousin's like extremely ill, and there's all of these strange things going on with the family in the house. And this book for me was probably the weirdest book that I have ever read. And it was more like gross. Like there were just scenes that happened between different characters, things that went on in the house that was just pretty gross. I don't know how to explain it without like giving things away. And I had also kind of figured out what was going on like way earlier and what was causing like the disease. And it just wasn't very impressive to me, like her using that thing to cause all these people to become sick and diseased. And then like there was just another twist with the family and like why they were doing what they were doing, and like the history of why they were doing what they were doing. And it just grossed me out and weirded me out. And I know that she published another book called Gods of Jade and Shadow, I think it's what it's called, which is like based on like Mexican mythology, and it takes place during the Jazz Age. And I've always been interested in reading that, but like after reading Mexican Gothic, I just have no desire to pick up any more of her books. So you guys will have to let me know if her other books are any different, any better, and if it's worth picking up Gods of Jade and Shadow. All right, you guys, so those are 5 authors that I don't know if I should give another chance to. Let me know in the comments, maybe some authors that you don't plan on giving another chance, or maybe some authors that you did give another chance and really, really had good success with it, or if you have read any of these books and what you've thought of them. And I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye.